We're going to cheat, and we are going to say, we're not cheaters, by the way, but we're going to cheat, and we're going to say, we're 3 for 3. We did not bring you a preview show. So Kelly Murphy is back on the On the Mic podcast with myself, Mike Pendleton, and we're doing a review show. Like, I thought I'd hold off, maybe wait there later in the week, but I know how busy she is. I had to get through 2 booking agents, and I had to go through family, security guards. She's back. How are you, Kelly?
I'm good. I honestly feel like we can confidently say we're 3 for 3. Like, we didn't promise preview shows every time. We promised pay-per-view shows, and we're just doing a recap this time. That's okay.
Yeah, no, and I just called myself out. I probably texted you the most all of last week than I did in recent memory. And I was just in bad shape from like Wednesday night all the way through. We'll just put it this way, listeners and viewers. When Kelly has to say in all caps, don't fucking do karaoke, that's how you know it's a bad week.
I said it on 2 platforms. I'm pretty sure I messaged you on like Snapchat or something, and I texted you, do not do it.
Yep. So that's how my week was. I don't know. All right. So I'm not going to name the place where I watched my, we're just going to get the bad out the way before we talk about the card.
Okay.
I'm not going to name the place, but as you know, I tend to make big fight nights, like an all-day affair, like if I was going to tailgate at a football game.
Yes.
So I want to say probably about halfway through the prelims, I started getting a little droopy. Like I was tired. I was wearing it. And I was like, I got it. I was like, I'm going in the bathroom and act like I have to use like the stall. And I'll just chill for like 2 minutes. And I'll just reboost and recover. Not more than 45 seconds that I'm in there, the manager and the bouncer go, hey, Mike, we met some UFC fans we want you to sit with. They're like an older group, and they're like really looking for someone to watch the fights with. I'm like, I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't.
Right. You were fully recruited while you were trying to rest.
Yeah. I was like, oh, my God. So, yeah, prelims, kind of missed the boat on those.
Okay.
But we are here to talk about UFC 272. And I think the last thing I remember you saying to me was actually probably Friday. And that's when you said if I was picking Jorge Masvidal, I was nuts. I was picking Jorge Masvidal. And honestly, like I want to start on a tangent right now because I am so sick of these. And it's not just a Masvidal dig, right? Kelly, you can back me up on this. How many times do we see fighters who are predominant strikers get their 1, 2, sometimes they get lucky and get 3 moments of opportunity to close the show. And the first thing you hear after the fight, I had him hurt there in that one round, in that one moment, and I just didn't rush in and capitalize on it. And it's like, that's the most infuriating thing when I hear these fights and I hear these fighters after the fight. Like, I don't know what it is. Maybe you could tell me here. Obviously, Colby dominated in his wrestling. There was some fouls. I think, the fouls were a big topic of conversation after the fight. But is that a thing where it's just when you're going up against a wrestler, you don't want to rush in because if you miss your shot, you're getting taken down?
I feel like that's predominantly what we hear. A lot of, strikers, when it's a classic striker wrestler matchup, your striker is afraid to open up on the feet because they're always concerned about being taken down. Jorge, when he dropped Colby in the 4th, I believe it was, must have just been exhausted at that point. That's where in real time, I was like, wow, he's tired. He's been wearing Colby's body weight on him for 3.5 rounds at this point. He's probably too tired to even rush in. And the only good thing about it after the fight was that he realized he was like I should have capitalized, but I couldn't. I think he said, I thought he was going to go for the takedown in that instance, I guess.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, to me, I talked about it a little bit today on Jimmy's show, but I don't know if the fight would have been all that different. Colby got dropped, but he didn't look hurt. He didn't look dazed at all. It was one knee. He popped right back up. Had Jorge rushed in and tried to capitalize, I don't think it would have been that different. I mean, Colby looked really good.
He did look really good, but we're kind of in a stalemate now at 170. And I don't really love to go on these like really negative rants or really talk down on like fighters at all. But I will say one thing: I really don't like to compliment Colby Covington. I think if you follow his persona, you know why that is. But I will give Colby props. I think he knows he's 1-2 fights away from probably getting a title shot. So he's calling out Dustin Poirier. He's focusing on his next fight. And honestly, your big money draws, your people who sell, they're not always looking at the first opponent in front of them. They're looking at their next 2 opponents after their current opponent. And so, I give Colby credit. He's calling out Dustin Poirier. Did not like the, things he was saying about Dustin Poirier, but Colby selling a fight. And I don't know how you feel. The only thing I want to address is someone who's like a friend and mentor to me. And I think you know more than most people. If I become friends with you in this sport or because of this sport, like I will die on your hill. And the way Colby Covington was to John Morgan, all media, like all fight week, like you can sell your act for a fight, but now you're just showing your true ass with the media. And people are like, well, he doesn't need the media and he doesn't this. Yeah. No, he needed the media because without the cameras being turned on, when he did his little post-fight interview and stuck to his words about Brazil, if the media wasn't there and they weren't covering his fight, he has no platform. And he's just a boring wrestler who gets no attention. So that was, listen, he beat George Masvidal. He beat George Masvidal at what he's best at, in his wrestling. Colby's best at is. But I was just not a fan of how everything turned out top to bottom.
No, I completely agree. I think John Morgan is one of the best, if not the best in the business. Everyone always says he's first on the media line. That's why he's always first to ask a question just about anywhere there's a media availability. So when I had seen how Colby responded to him, I believe it was at the media day for 272. I read the headline. I didn't even watch it because that kind of stuff makes me sick. I just don't like the disrespect. I think Colby even tried to go after Kevin Iole in the post fight at 272. Like It's just not a good look. And granted, a lot of things that he continues to do is not a good look for him. So it doesn't surprise me at all. It just sucks. But one thing I will say about the fight too, and I'm in the same boat, I don't love to compliment Colby. Teddy Atlas said it at the post show. Colby's striking looked pretty damn good too. We went in talking about 3 things: Colby's wrestling, obviously, Jorge's, lack of wrestling compared to Colby, and he brought in Bo Nickel and how that was going to play out, and obviously Jorge's striking. But Colby looked pretty good on the feet too. Like he had his instances where he was teeing off as well. So he impressed me in that sense. Otherwise, it went kind of how I thought it was going to go. I thought it was going to be a 5-round decision. I thought it was going to be a little bit less exciting than it was actually, but I figured it would be, on the ground pretty much the whole time.
Yeah. I'm going to disagree with you and Teddy Atlas. I think a tired opponent can bring out better striking in a fighter. And I think George was tired early. I mean,
I thought Colby's striking looked good all fight.
Yeah, right. And I think George got tired very quickly. And I think he even said that too. Like he was gassed after the first round. I'm not saying Colby's got, amateur striking, but I don't know. The only thing that captivated me in that fight was his ability to maintain control. We also got to understand, like, we're not talking about 2 guys who just hate each other. This wasn't Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz. They didn't know anything about each other. Colby knows what to throw against George and everything like that. And listen, I'm not here to defend and die on Masvidal's hill, but, props to Colby. But again, we're at a stalemate here at 170 pounds. I guess I ask you, they could do this. I mean, they could do some crazy shit, that they being the UFC. They could give us a card where Conor McGregor fights Nate Diaz and Colby Covington fights Dustin Poirier.
I don't want to see the Colby Dustin fight. It's going to look exactly like what we just saw on Saturday. And it's not nearly as much of a grudge match as Colby and Jorge was. I'm not into it at all. At all.
I love it. I struck a chord with you. I was like, I got to get some emotion out of her.
I hate it. Like, I hate it because, like you said a little bit earlier, Colby realistically at 170 could be a fight or 2 away from a title shot. Like, Dustin Poirier isn't that guy. He's not a 170 pounder. And it's going to be exactly what we just saw, in my opinion. I don't even think Dustin wants it in the sense of I don't know if Dustin wants to engage in that kind of pre-fight bullshit that Colby brings, you know what I mean? And where it's dirty and it goes far beyond pre-fight trash talk when he's talking about his wife and his kid. It's disgusting. And I'm not sure that that's even something that Dustin's going to want to engage with. I'd much rather see Dustin and Nate fight.
Yeah, no. So I think, all right. So let's talk about some of the biggest draws in UFC right now. Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier, George Masvidal. 3 names only fit with 1 name, but 2 guys. I want George against Nick Diaz, and I want either Dustin or Conor to fight Nate Diaz. That's like, because you got to, if you realistically go through the welterweight rankings, and I'm going to admit, I saw the Nick Diaz idea for Masvidal on Twitter, so I can't say I came up with it. Listen, Nick didn't look great in his fight against Robbie Lawler, but he obviously brought something to the cage. I think Robbie had a lot of respect for him in that. But if you go through the welterweight rankings, there's not a lot of guys I want to see George Masvidal against right now. If I'm on Team Masvidal, like, I need to protect my shine right now. And I got this lucrative deal. The UFC needs to protect their money. Like, he just signed this crazy deal. And now he's going to kind of be that guy where they're going to look for big fights and not important fights. And you already had him beat Nick's little brother, Nate. Big brother, try to come back one more, avenge his brother. Because if we know anything about the Diaz brothers, they'll fight for each other. So if Nick's got one last hoorah on him, maybe trying to make up for his little brother's loss could be something that keeps him around.
I mean, the storyline's built in, of course, but I don't really want to see Nick Diaz fight anymore if Nick Diaz doesn't truly want to fight anymore. It kind of seemed like he was just fighting because he had to, in a sense, in that last fight, which I don't love. And then with the way that fight ended, it kind of left me with an uneasy feeling of like, listen, I'm glad I got to see Nick Diaz fight. I'm relatively new to the sport, so I never really got to see Nick. So it was nice for me to see that. But I would have been completely okay if I never saw it again. I'd like to see Nate and Dustin fight, and I wouldn't hate to see Conor fight George Masvidal. I really wouldn't at 170. Conor's big these days, big boy.
Listen, I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. I'm not from there, and I'm obviously not 100%. But the Irish boys aren't thick, so whatever's going into the proper 12. Black Forge in, like, whatever he's got going on in the McGregor factory, and I am not accusing him of any medicine type enhancements. What I'm saying is he's not thick enough to fight a guy like Masvidal. He's not big enough to fight a Colby Covington.
Yeah, but Masvidal's really a 155er that moved up to 70.
Yeah, but if you look at him now compared to him at 55, and I guess you could say it about the same, right? But Dustin didn't look overly big at 70, right? He just looked like, I just didn't cut any weight. And I think that's the huge difference. I think right now we're talking about a guy who's in Conor who sat on the couch for the last 8, 9, 10 months. And he's done nothing but work out on his upper body. All right. So now when he starts to get into fight camp, how's his body going to react? Is he going to try and stay at 190 and get all the way down to 55? Or is he going to say, I'll just try to stay around 170, barely cut any weight? But then I don't know how much power he's bringing. Like, I'm not saying he can't fight at 170.
I could argue he could be more powerful if he doesn't make the cut all the way to 55. And
that's true. But it depends on what he's at when he goes into camp for me. And
of course,
I don't know if Conor wants to enter camp for a 55 fight at 180, 190, 188 pounds. Like, I know your good friend, I would say my good friend, he would tell me to shut up because I'm a dunk. Luke Thomas recently had this on his Twitter feed talking about some lightweights do get up to 190 before dropping down to 55. So that's not Conor naturally, though. I think Conor's naturally probably hovering around 180. But right now it's all speculation. We're talking about people's weights.
Right.
Yeah, listen, a Masvidal fight would be huge, but then, like, I guess the bigger thing about who I would want to see in that fight or whatever, you got to think of the other side of that. Like, it's what us in the media talk about. It's what the fans want. And then ultimately, what is the UFC willing to do? Because they got to risk one of their superstars.
Of course. Well, that's a big part of it too. Because Conor just alone is a whole other conversation. But you have Masvidal who just signed this new, apparently really big contract that puts him, the 1B to Connor's 1A, according to Malky Kawa, I believe, tweeted, it's just you and Connor now, something like that. So you have Masvidal, who signs this huge contract, obviously loses to Colby Covington on Saturday night in a way that I think a lot of people thought it was going to go down. Do you want to risk him going in there against Connor and losing and being, now you've lost 2 fights under this new contract. And then, same thing goes for Connor, another loss now after the 2-2 Dustin.
Yeah. And that would be what, 3 or 4 straight for George if he were to lose to Connor, because he has the 2 against Usman and now this one.
Yeah.
I don't know if, so that's, that's not great, but I just pulled up the rankings. So like, coming into, I guess these are updated rankings. So now he's number 7. You give him Stephen Thompson, who's 6, probably not, maybe. But I'll tell you, he doesn't want to fight Sean Brady.
But 170 is full of good wrestlers, top to bottom. That's the thing. And that's one of the things I was talking about with Kevin Holland moving down to 70. I was like, I don't even know if he's going to reach the success that he reached at 85, because top to bottom, 170 has really good wrestlers. It's not just up at that top.
Yeah, and somehow, some way, through all of that, right, we have our number 11, Hamzat Chimaev, fighting in a number 1 contender fight. Like, that's why I say, like, you have to be so careful in Masvidal's next fight. Definitely. And, like, I'm not saying, like, we know that boxing does this for real. And maybe the UFC is realizing once you start to pay these cash cows, you got to give them green grass, like literally green grass. You can't give them expired, burnt up grass that people have been driving over. You got to give them something that's worth it so they can stay around longer. And if you give George anyone who's remotely even dangerous and could put his lights out or can make him not look like the game bred guy, I don't really know. Like, I need somebody in American Top Team who's a no-namer to start talking shit to George so we can get that aminosity going again. And I don't know. It's not a good look if I'm on Team Masvidal right now.
No, I mean, it's exactly what you said. Like, you want to fight for him that's winnable. But then again, he just signed this massive contract. So is that winnable fight exciting? Like, does that add up to the contract he just signed? Like, we were running through options today on Jimmy's show, and it was like, okay, this could work. Do you really want to see it? Not really. All right, this could work. But do you really want to see it? Not really. You know what I mean? It's like all of the guys that it would be, more exciting. It's not really entertaining. And that's what Jorge's about. Like, he's an entertainer. Like, he's this big star for a reason. You know what I mean? Not because he's, the elite of the elite, like champion, because he's an entertainer. Like, he's just a cool person and people like to watch him. People are drawn to him. So you have to strike a balance, and that, like, I genuinely don't know how to do that with who's around.
I think there's only honestly, if it's not going to be a Diaz, I think there's only one thing George can kind of hope on, and that's Leon Edwards does not beat Kamaru Usman. And because for what it's worth, and I'm not giving my pick away because that fight's not even made yet, and who knows what could happen in the matter of the next 3 months.
Yeah.
I know Leon is supposed to be next. But I'll tell you what, in my gut feeling, the UFC will do anything to knock Leon down the ladder. So if he loses to Kamaru, all right, cool, perfect. Now we got this guy. We got this grudge match. Run that footage from 3 years ago. Here we go. Now we're good. We got Masvidal. Connor, who do you want? You want 55 title? You got it. No problem. Connor, you want Dustin again? You got it. No problem. Hey, Connor, you want Nate? No problem. Like, literally, it sounds weird to say, but Kamaru Usman could help Connor and the UFC's future. Like, it really is crazy to lay it out that way. But when you look at the options, I mean, let's talk about the co-main event, which I don't know. I'll like at some point you got to understand what damage is, right? And as a corner, I mean, we talked about it because we've experienced it with someone we're both, friends with and respect, and Anthony Smith. I didn't necessarily hate it per se, but I didn't love it, letting the Renato Moicano fight go against Rafael dos Anjos. I'll just ask you on the flip side of, give me your thoughts on the stoppage, but also Conor RDA. Is that a thing? Like,
I mean, I don't hate Conor RDA by any means. I just feel like there's other matchups for Conor that are more high profile. I mean, Dana literally said when Conor comes back, we'll have to see who's the champion at that point. So, like, hasn't ruled out an immediate title shot for Conor when he comes back, which is why RDA Conor, I don't see it happening. But matchup wise, I think it would be great. Would I be mad to see that? Absolutely not.
So real quick, Justin Gaethje wins the belt. Do you want him to fight Conor?
Yes. Yeah.
We're not doing a show if that happens. If that fight's made.
Okay.
Okay, and then I would take it a step further. Does Conor McGregor have any legitimate shot to beat Charles Oliveira?
Yeah, I do. I think so. I think it's kind of like the same shot that Justin Gaethje would have, like in a decent stand-up. Oliveira leaves himself very hittable,
Yeah.
very hittable. So yeah, I would give Conor a shot. I would give Conor a better shot to beat Oliveira than I would Justin Gaethje. And that's not me saying that I think Justin Gaethje is better than Charles Oliveira. I just think stylistically, Conor gives himself a better shot to beat Charles Oliveira.
Yeah, I don't know if Conor wants to necessarily deal with any more leg kicks in the next 6 fights.
Yeah.
I also know that I can't believe I'm gonna throw up in my mouth giving all these compliments away to people, but I know for a fact that Justin Gaethje would. It's not just a fight, and you've got this Irish guy who's been bickering and putting himself in the middle of the division. And if Justin can embarrass him and take him out completely, he'll take him out completely. He has that mentality. He comes from that type of gym. He has those kind of coaches where you get in the way, we're gonna remove the problem. So yeah, no, and I think everything you say for Conor, he would just know, like, don't go to the ground with Oliveira. Like, I don't
I mean,
think
that's always the plan, I would assume, for most.
right. Like, and I don't necessarily know that Charles would want to stand and trade with Conor. So I'm with you on that. But your thoughts on the stoppage? I mean, RDA looks good, right? But like, I don't know where he fits in. Like, it's just okay. I think we got to make the Rafael against Rafael fight. Like, let's rebook that fight. But now it's like we got this whole Islam Makhachev thing, and it's like I don't know what to do.
I mean, so it seems like from Dana White's words that we're going to actually end up seeing Islam Makhachev versus Beneil Dariush in a couple months or whenever Beneil's back. I hated the reason behind it because it more or less sounded like because Islam wouldn't take the RDA fight on just a couple days notice, just a couple days removed from fighting, he's being punished in a sense and now has to take the Beneil fight instead of getting a title shot. I don't love the mathematics behind it, but I do like the outcome because I really did want to see Islam Makhachev versus Beneil Dariush. I'd like to see Islam fight that top tier guy before he got in there for a title shot because I think he's legit. Of course I do. I think he looked great against Bobby Green, but on the same hand, I think he did what everyone thought he was going to do to Bobby Green. We talked about it a little bit on Jimmy's show. Like, had that fight went long, people would have been like, wow, Islam, what a bum. Like, couldn't get Bobby Green out of there early. You know what I mean? He did exactly what we thought he was going to do and looked really good doing it. But now I want to see how he fares against Beneil Dariush, who has like such a funky style. And I do think poses a good chance to beat him if anybody does, really. So I'm excited to see that. But then, like you said, now we have RDA, who just put on a clinic against Renato Moicano last weekend. So I'd love to see them book the Fiziev fight again when Fiziev is healthy and recovered from COVID. I think that would be great. Then you have Gaethje and Oliveira fighting for the title. Then you have Conor somewhere who in the next couple of months apparently is coming back and could very well walk right into a title shot because he's Conor McGregor. I mean, this is why to me, the lightweight division is like the best. Like there's all these different matchups. There's all these people floating around. There's so many different things that could happen. There's so many question marks. Like, I don't know. I just love it. It's my favorite division.
So I think you have that in a few divisions. I think you have the mouthpieces though, and the talent that's ready to fight more than some of these other divisions.
Right.
Like I think there's a shit ton of fights to make at heavyweight. We're just dragging our feet, and obviously Francis Ngannou being out, like we get all that. But like, damn it, let's get Stipe a fight. Let's get John Jones a fight.
Yeah.
Like no disrespect to Mr. Daukaus, but Curtis Blades should not be fighting a Daukaus right now. Like this guy, like I whatever. I'm not gonna get on that tangent right now. But going back to lightweight though, I playing devil's advocate here. I'm gonna say you're wrong, and I'm gonna say Islam is not being punished because he wanted $1 million for a quick turnaround. I don't think he's being punished. I think Beneil Dariush is being credited because it's not. I mean, Beneil got hurt, right? It's not like he refused to fight or something. Like there was like a bidding, like a bad contract negotiation, right? He got hurt, and he's worked his way all the way up to the top. And not for nothing, great performance against Bobby Islam, but you did what everyone expected you to do. And Bobby came in just 2 weeks removed from a fight. Like, I hate to be that guy, but I don't really necessarily love fighters getting special treatment because they beat someone in an unfavorable matchup
Right.
on short notice. I think when Nate did it against Conor at UFC 196, I think nobody expected it because there was this aura of Conor where he was untouchable and it didn't matter. And he was a monster and he was going from 45 to 70. So I wouldn't necessarily say Nate even got rewarded. Nate got rewarded because Conor wanted that fight back. But to say, you know what, you beat a guy who just fought 2 weeks ago, and you know what, thanks for helping us save a main event. Here's $1 million and you got a title shot. Like, not for nothing, he hasn't still beaten a top 5 opponent. So you can't take away what Beneil Dariush has already done and worked for.
Yeah.
He needs that fight.
But Islam did just do an interview with Brett Okamoto and said that he didn't ask for $1 million. That wasn't true. But I think really what's going on is that Justin Gaethje and Charles Oliveira aren't fighting for another 2 months. Okay, let's say the winner can fight again in 6 months, in 4 months even. You're not having Islam Makhachev on the sidelines for 6, 7, 8 months.
Yeah.
He needs another fight in between. So I think that's really what the deal was. I think had, Gaethje and Oliveira fought maybe a week later or a week before, and the next number one contender was kind of like, okay, we need to find out now because we want a fight made in 4 months. I very much think Islam Makhachev would have slotted in because there's not really anybody else. But I think with the way the timing works out, you can't really have him sit on the sidelines that long. And it works out perfectly that hopefully Beneil Dariush is healed in the next few months. They'll be good to go. They can make that fight happen. That's a fight everybody wanted to see regardless. Okay, we're good. That's taken care of. And then that'll establish your number one contender. So I think all is ultimately right in the world. I just don't know what went on behind the scenes. It's probably better
right.
off.
Murphy's matchmaking, you gotta love it. I absolutely love it. All right, well, Bryce Mitchell remains undefeated. Absolutely put on a clinic against Edson Barboza. It feels weird, right? It feels weird,
Right.
but it's like now Bryce Mitchell has arrived.
Yeah.
I'm ready. He deserves a guy in the top, in the top of the division.
Definitely.
But like, who? Like,
I was so impressed with Bryce Mitchell, and I say cautiously impressed because I really liked what he did and he looked great and he was just so dominant that entire fight. But another part of me is like, okay, it was Edson Barboza who very much step up an opponent for Bryce Mitchell, but on a skid for sure, not in the best form of his entire career. So that's why I say cautiously impressed, but regardless, I think he looked amazing. I think he did. I mean, honestly, he performed better than I thought he was going to. So now, just like you said, I'm ready for him to take on somebody else higher because I think this was really, really good. Now I want to see what he does against somebody higher up.
Can I throw a name at you? I'm trying to make sure he doesn't have a fight book.
Okay.
Because I like to name names in front of you that you had to text me 2 minutes later and be like, that fight's off. That fight's not happening. So yeah. I don't want to say a name that has a fight coming up. But I would absolutely love this fight. And I think it would really be, I don't know necessarily, I want to say a step up in competition. My laptop is terrible. I'm just going to say it. I'm going to risk it.
Okay.
Calvin Kattar, anyone? Calvin Kattar, Bryce Mitchell, like he doesn't have an opponent. So
I don't love that.
Why don't you, I mean.
I don't think I love that at all. That didn't even cross my radar.
But like, here's the thing though. So Bryce is at 9 in the division. You got Arnold Allen fighting Dan Hooker here in 2 weeks. You've got Max kind of waiting around for the next title fight. You've got Brian Ortega, Yair Rodriguez reportedly getting made.
Oh, that's going to be so good.
You got Korean Zombie who sits at 4. And then you have Calvin at 5. Josh Emmett's there. I think he has a fight booked, though. I may be wrong on that. And then you got Giga. So it's either you just give Bryce one step up and give him Giga, which would be interesting because the Giga kick and all that. But I think Bryce Mitchell deserves a top 5, and Calvin's the only one sitting there, and he hasn't fought since, January.
Yeah, I mean, I like the Giga fight a little bit better. I don't know because the 145 is weird because you have Max and Alex who are, I just think, a level above everybody else. Then you have that like lump of like Korean Zombie, Yair, Brian, Calvin, who have all lost to Max pretty much. And then you have that next group of people where
Right.
Giga Chikadze falls. So I wouldn't hate seeing him fight Giga. And then if he beats Giga, getting into like your Calvin Caters, you're the loser of one of these matchups coming up type of deal. And then obviously seeing what comes after that. But first, maybe it's just because I like Calvin Cater a lot. Not that I don't think he would win, but that just didn't cross my radar.
Like, we know what Bryce is good at, and that's obviously his wrestling, and he
Right.
showcased that in dominant fashion. But I think we need a guy who's known for just bad punishment and striking. And
Yeah.
that used to be Edson Barbosa 2-3 years ago, right?
Sure.
Like, we're talking about an aging Barbosa. Like, I think I would need to see Bryce in a dogfight. I don't necessarily know if Giga's going to be ready for that anytime soon, but I know somebody who comes for a dogfight every single time he fights, and that guy is Calvin Cater. So maybe Calvin deserves a better fight, but everyone above him is booked. And I think you have a guy who's undefeated, and maybe that's all. Maybe that's all Calvin Cater needs. Take the steam out of somebody else's boat. Take that O away from him, and then be like, you know what? When you guys figure it out above me, I'll be right here. Because I just took that guy's O away from him.
I know it's true. Calvin does find himself in a weird spot, but it's just, to me, after what he did to Giga Chikadze, where a lot of people picked Giga to win that fight,
Yeah.
and Calvin really just dominated. It was just a masterclass. I don't see him wanting to fight down. But like you just said, then you look up and everybody kind of has a dance partner. So it's like you either got to sit and wait for these fights to play out, which is never a good game to play in the UFC because somebody could get hurt. And, you know, just in general, Dana doesn't like somebody that sits. And I don't think Calvin wants to sit because after the Max fight, he was out for so long just trying to, you know, recover. He didn't even like spar for so long just to make sure he was all straightened out. I mean, I don't hate it timeline wise, but it just sucks in terms of like, I don't want him to fight down after what he just did.
All right. Well, I can't sell Kelly on the Calvin Cater Bryce Mitchell fight, but I would say, and I have no inside info on this, I would say look at that because that, you know, for those who will watch this, I would say that would be a very intriguing matchup for me. Again, I think Calvin beating Giga was great, right? But I think Calvin to get into that right in between the Max and the Alexes, I think he needs a statement win. And again, Bryce Mitchell hasn't fought the greatest of the greats throughout his run, but to be 15-0 is 15-0. So if Calvin can take that away from him, I'm here for it. I'm also here for Kevin Holland at 170. I mean, I don't. It's hard, right? Like Joe Rogan saying his praises, saying he was built for this division and this is his division. And like, I get it, Joe. You got to make sure the guy feels good after a win. I don't necessarily know that I agree with it, but I didn't love Kevin Holland at 185. I do love Kevin Holland regardless, though. And I think he's we talked about 170 at nauseum, so there's not much to say. But what did you make of Kevin Holland at 170? And do you just book him in fun fights right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's Kevin Holland is a fun fighter. He has a fun personality and people like to watch him for that reason. But like I said earlier, obviously at 85, Kevin struggled on the ground and 170 is full of guys with great ground game, like great top to bottom. I think Michael Chiesa is number 10. Like,
yeah.
It doesn't seem like an easy road by any means to get up into that middle to top to elite in that division if you don't have a great ground game. And if you remember, I mean, I would hope you do because it was only like 4 days ago, he didn't look good in the first round of his fight.
No, but he did give a thumbs up, and that was very important.
But see, that bothered me a little bit because I was like, I'm good. I'm glad everything's like really good for you, but like, you didn't look that good all around. Obviously, luckily for him, he came back and won, but that was against Alex Oliveira. Like, it's not a great sign. You know what I mean? And I'm happy he won because I want him to do really good things. I like him, but he struggled in the first round of that fight. And Alex Oliveira is nowhere near the elite of that division.
He is not, but I did like the Cowboy Cerrone call out. Not necessarily. I know he kind of walked it back after the fight in the press conference, but yeah, a little bit. He said he may want to go after Daniel Rodriguez because last time he called out Cerrone, Daniel Rodriguez was like, don't worry about him, worry about me. So I would like the Daniel Rodriguez fight too. But listen, if you're telling me worst case scenario for someone we spoke about earlier, and we just needed to get him a win, I'd give Kevin Holland Masvidal. But that would be like worst case scenario, right? Because you got a young guy, energetic guy who wants to talk all this shit, and now you could frame it as the UFC's trying to give me this guy because like I've lost my last few fights and it's bullshit. I got to go in here and take care of him. And Kevin Holland will be like, you're not really going to take care of me, like, because I'm here for it. Like, when we were talking about it earlier, I didn't want to say it, but then I saw your reaction. So I don't love it. It would be a worst case scenario booking for the UFC, but it may not be their worst case scenario.
I mean, Jorge's not going to give him any problems on the ground. I mean,
right.
Like it would be exciting, an exciting stand-up fight for sure. And I think the buildup would be funny because Kevin Holland's just a funny guy, and I could see him just spewing just a lot of random BS. You know what I mean? And Jorge's he's already an established star. I don't hate it. I don't love it because again, I wouldn't want to see either them lose to each other.
Yeah. Right.
But I don't hate it stylistically by any means.
UFC 272 review show with Kelly Murphy. She doesn't hate it. She doesn't love it.
I feel like that's what I said several
That's what
times.
I got out of you today. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for this such short notice show you did with me. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it either. Thank you so much for giving me all of your time. I know one thing you will love though, and it's probably more likely almost written in stone that Greg Hardy will not fight in the UFC again after fighting out the last fight of his contract. And if you're a person with a good, humane heart and brain and you know his story, I didn't hate seeing the way that fight ended or the immediate aftermath of that fight. So I guess happy trails if you care about that to Greg Hardy. Not necessarily sure what he thinks. Like, I don't know. I don't even know if Eagle FC would take him right now. And that's not a knock on them, but Greg Hardy's got a lot of work to do. So maybe he winds back up like an LFA or something. But I think, it was nice while your UFC contract lasted for you, Greg Hardy, not necessarily for any other reason, not for your career, but.
I couldn't be happier with the way Greg Hardy's fight went on Saturday evening. I was actually furious that it was on the main card to begin with, because the women's strawweight fight definitely should have kicked off the main card. I think he's a terrible person, and I'm very glad that his UFC career has been extremely lackluster, because there shouldn't have even been a UFC career to begin with. So hopefully with yet another loss, he goes back where he came from, and I don't want to see him fighting anywhere. I don't even want to see his name anymore.
Yeah.
Ever.
I'm like absolutely 100% with you on that. You were right. Real quick, just Marina Rodriguez and Jan. Who did you have winning that fight?
I had Marina Rodriguez winning that fight.
Yeah, that was a very, very great fight.
That was a great fight. Like, I picked Marina going into it.
I did hear. Wait, did I hear? I did hear your pick. No, I did not. I only got your main card picks.
Yeah, we did. So Jimmy and I did one tiebreaker off air because we ran out of time, and we were like, wait, like what if the two fights we picked differently on split? So we picked the Marina Rodriguez fight, and I picked her. It was razor thin, actually. It was a little bit closer than I thought it was going to be, even though both women are extremely talented. I know a lot of people were upset that it wasn't scored for Yao Jinan, but I scored it for Marina.
Yeah, no, so did I. Just real quick, wrapping up UFC 272. Great win, and I will say like the best moment so far this year was Marina Moroz talking, about Ukraine, was trying to not get all emotional while I was out and about for that fight, or out for that fight night. And props to her. Umar Nurmagomedov doing what a Nurmagomedov does. Tim Elliott just flat out like, yeah, no, I grabbed the gloves. Like, we're fighting, dude. That
was, to be honest, one of my favorite fights of the night. It's not getting talked about nearly enough.
Yeah, no, it was a good fight for sure. But I just love how he was like, yeah, 100%, I did it. Like, we're fighting.
And I love that, though. Yeah. Like, and I think it was Bisping, and he's like, I hate to keep complimenting it, but like, Tim Elliott knows, he's like, it's such a savvy vet move to grab the glove if you're getting away with it. Yeah. And after like 2 times, I think Rogan was like, I mean, like, do you mean to keep complimenting it? Because you are. Like, and I was cracking up. But Tim Elliott, that could have been one of the best performances I've ever seen from him. He was definitely an underdog going into that. His scrambles were chef's freaking kiss. I was literally sitting on my couch. I was like, oh my God, like he looks so good. I was so happy for him. And another layer that's like relatively unrelated to the fight itself, Habib screaming in the corner during the glove grabs. I was like, leave the camera on this man every time he corners.
Swear to God, like, and remind me to never piss off Khabib a day in my life. Like,
no,
like I'm good.
No.
Because I want to get some football talk in here with you, and I know we don't have a lot of time left. But we have a UFC card this weekend with Magomed Ankalaev and Thiago Santos. I mean, what an unfortunate thing for Thiago Santos, right? Like, Magomed is a minus 600 going into this fight. 2 years ago, people were giving Thiago Santos the light heavyweight title against John Jones, and he blew his knees out. Like, just brutal. I expect Magomed Ankalaev to go in there and do the damn thing. What about you?
I completely agree with you. It's actually the last two guys that really people were giving the light heavyweight belt to, Thiago Santos and Dominic Reyes, have had very unfortunate turns since those fights, obviously. I definitely agree with you. I see Magomed Ankalaev going in there and doing pretty much exactly what he wants. He trains with Eric Nixick, no? At Extreme? Yeah. I mean, all of the love to Eric Nixick. He is one of my favorites, if not my favorite coach in MMA. I trust pretty much everything he does with his fighters, and it's very hard for me to root against anybody coming out of Extreme Couture.
Hold on, Dean Thomas is calling. Hold on.
Oh my God. That's why I said one of my favorites, if not. We love Dean. I'm a big Mark Montoya fan.
Yeah, no, I was like, I got a few
Behrman.
People I got a few people who want to talk right now.
There's some people that aren't happy.
They don't hate it, but they don't love it.
They don't hate it, but they don't love it. Exactly. But I didn't know he was that big of a favorite. Wow.
Yeah. He opened at like minus 155, and all the money he's going on that. I just hope people aren't just looking at the name Magomed and going, all right, he's got it.
Sure.
All right, he's got it. People's main event, my dark horse fight of the weekend, Marlon Moraes against Yadong Song. Banger.
That's going to be a goodie. That's going to be a goodie. Yeah,
super excited for that. Honestly, this fight card is shaping up to be one that's very much like I'm going to watch it because it's on, and it might be a banger of a card. Right before that, you have Sodiq Yusuff, who I'm a huge fan of, taking on Alex Caceres. And then you have Khalil Roundtree taking on Carl Robeson. But I know a fight we both wanted to get to. I kind of lost it for a little bit. I remember I used to text you every time this Drew Dober was fighting, but Drew Dober, Terrence McKinney stepping up on short notice, turns right around. It was 2 weeks ago. He fought, had another first round finish. He's taking on Drew Dober. I'm just going to start it off by saying this. You can give me 12 belt changes this year. You can give me all the highlight clips in the world. You can have someone beat Jorge Masvidal's knockout record. We can have the biggest upsets of all time happen this year. And I still think Terrence McKinney should and will go down as the best story of 2022. And I'm saying that in March. If you know his story, if you see the way he fights, if you see the way he carries himself, and honestly, unapologetically, I'll just say the way he represents himself and is not afraid to say anything on social media, good for you, Terrence McKinney. You are my favorite person of the year so far.
I absolutely love Terrence McKinney. I think he is like one of the coolest guys in MMA. I'm pretty sure I tweeted that at him when I found out he accepted this fight. Huge step up in competition for him. But if he can get it done against Drew Dober, I mean, win or lose, I think sky's the limit for this guy, just fight wise and personality wise. But I'd love to see him get it done this weekend. I think it's going to be a good fight.
And not for nothing, I love both these guys. I love Drew Dober and I love Terrence McKinney. But I just want to go on record and say, when he walks out, it says fighting out of Chicago, Cook County, Illinois, the very place I'm currently sitting. So thank you, Terrence McKinney, for putting on. Like, I just want to throw that out there. Yeah, I'm also a little upset, though, because you always tweeted at Terrence McKinney about how cool he is, but then you buried me with like 10-7 insults on social media. Like, awesome.
Listen, it's just how I'm feeling that day.
Oh, okay. So you must never be feeling like complimenting me or being a friend or anything.
No.
I'm gonna block you on my birthday next week, by the way.
Yeah. Right.
I don't want to see. You might have terrible things to say about me. Like, don't love it, don't hate it, but whatever. You're old as shit now. I'm going to be 30 next week.
Oh my,
Yeah.
30?
Yeah.
Oh goodness.
Yeah.
You are old.
Yeah. Let alone, I didn't even tell you what happened to me this week. I guess I'll just talk about it because if I don't talk about it, it's never going to help. Guys who had a panic attack in their sleep and stopped breathing for like seconds earlier this week or on Sunday night. It was bad. I was like, yo, if this is how I am before I even hit 30, I'm probably going to got until like 31 and a half.
You got to hit the doctors.
Yeah. All my friends and family are saying like, all right, dude, like you're 30 now. You can't just bypass doctors anymore.
No.
Yeah. I was trying to hold out until like 42.
Oh my God.
I was going to go like a 20-year run. That way when they go, when's the last time you were at a doctor? I was like, I don't know, like 20 years or something. But it's not going well. So we talked about Drew Dober, Terrence McKinney. I know you wanted to bring up Alex Pereira.
Alex Pereira.
I'm going to say it however I want to say it. All right.
No, I mean, I'm just always interested to watch him fight because of the backstory with Izzy. I'm excited. I mean, obviously he's nowhere near getting his hands on Izzy in the UFC, but I'd like to see the progression towards it. I mean, I saw his first UFC fight. It was at the Garden, 268. I made sure I got my ass in my seat when that fight happened because I didn't want to miss it. So, I mean, he's exciting. So I'm excited to watch him this weekend. Hopefully he can make another step towards getting up into the elite of that division.
Well, regardless of what Kelly says, because I don't hate it, I don't love it, but Jillian Robertson is stepping up on short notice. Terrence McKinney stepping up on short notice. I'm just going to be selfish to say those are the two people you're watching for, but the entire main card this weekend is worth watching. Also worth watching if you are just interested in how his post-UFC career is going. Kevin Lee fights Diego Sanchez, which I don't love it at Eagle FC, but I do want to see Kevin perform at 165 pounds, and I want to see him perform for Eagle FC. So that takes place this weekend. Also on Saturday, Bellator 276 takes place. And we have Mads Burnell against Adam Borix. This fight taking place in St. Louis, and the co-main event, Phil Davis against Julius Angelicus. So great weekend of fights. I don't have you for much longer, so I ran through that because what the hell? I have that toxic ex-girlfriend back in my life, Kelly, and I'm not talking about my dating life. I thought Aaron Rodgers was gone. I thought he was done owning the Chicago Bears, and then boom. I don't know the necessary. I don't want to say because it was reported he got a 4-year, $200 million contract, $153 million guaranteed. He's going to make $50 a year, but then he said that report's not true. I don't know what the hell's going on about his contract, but Aaron Rodgers is going to terrorize the NFC North now for another 4 years, and I absolutely hate it. I thought I was moving on with my life, and then there's the ugly-ass ex-girlfriend with her troll-like hair, and she's immunized, and she's banging on the front door, and I hate it.
I love it. So I love it. You hate it. It goes with the theme of the day at a minimum. Yes. I would imagine that number, regardless of what it is in Aaron Rodgers' contract, is going to make him the highest paid player in the National Football League. I just don't know what the number is. And rightfully so, to be honest. I knew he wasn't going to retire. I don't know why people were speculating that. And I had a really heavy feeling that he was going to go back to Green Bay. I know he had issues with relationship issues with some of the team or coaches or personnel going into the season. And my best guess with that was that they had that solved going into the off season. You know, I don't know. I don't even know what to say. I'm just excited. I'm happy. Yeah. I like him. I like the Packers. I'm a Jets fan, obviously, but since they never do anything of substance, I usually root for the Packers because I like Aaron Rodgers a lot. So I'm not mad. I mean, he's going to be the richest man in the NFL, and he owns the Chicago Bears.
Okay, there it is. At least this time it only took 45 minutes for you to take your first dig at me. So I really appreciate
like what a guy. You own an NFL team
like
and you're the highest paid player.
Guys. First off, like the classiest guy you could possibly think of. I mean, that's just first and foremost. And he's so fucking handsome, right? Like, see, now you got me like dropping F-bombs. I'm just pissed off now. Like, you know, whatever, dude. Like, I'm done. Like, I'm done. I'm so done. Just go away. For my entire life, the same life where I almost just died in my sleep 2 nights ago, I've had Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers just absolutely shit all over my favorite football team.
It's only 4 more years, Mike.
Okay. All right. That's an entire college career. I know some of us went to Syracuse and rocked it the fuck out, what some of us didn't survive in college, and we have to 4 years is an eternity to us. Okay, I'm lucky to make it to next weekend.
What's 4 more years after like 35 of dominant quarterbacks for the Green Bay Packers?
That's great. And then, with my luck, I'll be 45 and the Lions will find the next best thing and they'll just have their way with the Chicago Bears. We're never going to do it. Never going to do it. The Chicago Bears never going to win anything. And that's going to be my life. And you know what? It's bullshit because my mom and so many people in my family had lived their entire lives up until 2016 watching. People in my family died twice before the Cubs won a World Series. Thank God there was people like I'm gonna die before the Bears won a Super Bowl, and I don't want to do that. I had to say bye to people who didn't get to watch the Cubs win a World Series. Yeah, this just got dark. I'm pissed.
Yeah, hello.
I'm pissed. I'm so pissed.
Listen, I'm in the same boat as a Jets fan, so.
Yeah, but you're also you like good players and good teams, so you take pride in that.
I also think the Jets are on the up and up. I'll defend them till the day I die.
Yeah, same. Yeah, that's why depression exists in my life. People are like, "Oh, do you want therapy?" No, I just watch Bears game every week.
No, I just want the Bears to win a Super Bowl.
That's all I want. That's all I want. I swear to God, that's all I want. And this city was built off of Michael Jordan and '85 Bears, and they're both so gone. They're gone. I mean, whatever. I'm gonna start crying. Yeah. I'm having a full-on meltdown. This is gonna be the end of my media career. Not like I really had one, but outside of Aaron Rodgers, just hours after that, Jerry Jeudy's thinking he doesn't have a quarterback, and then boom, the Broncos strike a deal. They send Drew Lock, Shelby Harris, a defensive tackle, a locker room guy, if you will. And then Noah Fant, very talented tight end who's often injured, however, with 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, a 4th-round pick, and a 5th-round pick. And they send that to Seattle for Russell Wilson and a 4th-round pick. Russell is now in Denver with a team that was essentially a quarterback away. And the AFC West just became the most entertaining and possibly best division in football.
I mean, Denver has set themselves up very nicely. Like you just said, they were a quarterback away. You slot Russell Wilson in. I mean, who's one of the greatest of this time. You know what I mean? It's a great trade for Denver. Even for Seattle, I don't think they got a shitty deal. I mean, the way it works out is obviously with Russ going to Denver, they're in a really, really, really good place. But you got 2 first-round picks and 2 second-round picks. That's a big deal. And listen, you got to draft wisely. I've been there where the Jets always have a 1st-round pick because they suck. And I've been there plenty of times where they haven't done it right. And I think they actually got it right this last year. I like all of their young talent. Seattle's just got to draft wisely. And honestly, what I said to you, what I'm most surprised about is that Seattle's rocking with Pete Carroll here instead of Russell Wilson, because I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah, they definitely chose Pete over Russell, but also they haven't drafted well since 2010. Their track record of 1st-round picks is absolutely terrible. I saw 2 amazing things from Seahawks reaction of this trade. One being someone who said at least the Seahawks now have 2 first-round picks for the next safety that becomes available on the trade market. I absolutely love that. But also, how about, I sent it to you, how about Mina Kimes absolutely destroying the Arizona Cardinals? Destroying. Destroy. And then Kyler Murray retweeted her tweet of posting him in the A's uniform. I don't know. Seattle lost their quarterback. Arizona probably lost their social media director. Certain things, if 2 people are doing something over here and it doesn't involve you and nobody's getting hurt, just go that way. Arizona,
I just want to say it's International Women's Day and all of these freaking NFL players are overshadowing it. We're all talking about Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson. Come on now.
Well, I mean, you ruined it. I was going to praise you for 2 minutes, but I mean, it's fine. I don't hate it. I don't love it. I don't hate it. I don't love it. I didn't know if you want
to be for the show. I feel if we don't get a pre-show in and we ultimately do a post-show recap, that's going to be the theme of them. I didn't hate what I saw. I didn't love it. What are we going to see? I don't know, but I don't hate it and I don't love it.
Yeah, and let's avoid emotional meltdowns in the future. I just Because I just remember watching that Sunday night game, and that should have been like the moment, right? When Jakeem Grant ran back the punt, and I was like screaming, and we had a lead in the first half. I was like, oh my God, this is it. This is it. We're gonna beat him on national TV, and he's gonna leave. And I was like, I was getting a divorce from like depression, and then depression was like, hey, 4 more years. 4 more years, big guy.
I'll sign these divorce papers. 4 years.
Yep. You can listen. You could be single. You could be single, but I'm still here.
Yeah, right. But at the end of the day, it comes back to me.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%. Be single, but when you walk in, you better be home alone because I'm right here.
I'm so curious to see the number on this deal, though. Like, so curious.
And then they're tagging Davante Adams, and it just makes my life. You know what really scares me? Because I have a buddy who's a Packers fan, and he said this. Well, Allen Robinson just moves up north, and like just wants to. Because we've seen plenty of former Bears become Packers, and I don't need Davante Adams and Allen Robinson with Aaron Rodgers.
Did they ultimately tag Adams today?
Yeah, they did.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, so
I missed that in the slew of news about Madden.
Yeah.
Good. I like Davante.
But I will say, because I know you have to get out of here, it is International Women's Day, and there's not many I know who work as hard as you. And I'm not just saying this because you set it up, but you seriously work your ass off. And if you don't follow Kelly, follow her socials at KMurphy25 on Twitter, Kelly_Murphy on Instagram. It's the disclaimer. If you follow her on Instagram, you say anything creepy and I hear about it, I will be in your inbox. I don't have shit I can do to physically beat you up, but I know people who can, and they won't answer my calls. So just let's avoid a direct line of communication. Let's respect Kelly. Kelly, you seriously work your ass off. You're on SiriusXM channel 156 Fight Nation. You're on every freaking show. You can talk about every freaking thing, from fighting to basketball, which I don't hate, I don't love.
Miami Heat.
Yeah.
3 games up in the East. Yes. Haven't even peaked yet. Let's just say that. Victor Oladipo's back. Oh, they're rolling.
But seriously, I'm so I feel very lucky to not only have you come on here and do these, but to be a friend of mine, and not just like we work together friend, but like an actual real life friend. So you work your ass off. Super proud of all the work you do. And I'm going to go through it because I just complimented you for like 2 minutes straight. So.
Oh my God. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to come back and talk 273 because that card is absolutely stacked. So there's going to be plenty to talk about there. So I appreciate
that card is so stacked. Obviously I know I will be talking to you before that.
Of course.
But yes, you should be back for UFC 273. Thank you. Just to credit Kelly for just how good of a friend and worker she is. We put this together super last minute. And
a few hours ago.
Yeah. But she didn't hate it. She didn't love it. Like, here's what we got in conclusion. Nothing makes sense in the future. The UFC's biggest stars. Welterweight is absolutely stacked. Kevin Holland is a fun fighter. Our RDA may not ever get his red panty night. And there's a hell of a great weekend of fights on the weekend of March 12th. And I don't know, throw some birthday tweets at me. Follow it next week if you care, or hit the subscribe button as well. But yeah, I'm sure something's gonna happen in the next few days, and you and I will be talking about some crazy shit in the sports world. But enjoy all that you do when you're not working. Go have fun. And International Women's Day was built for people like you, so women like you.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. I'm excited to obviously do it again in a few weeks and probably talk to you within the next few hours.
Gotta say it like that, makes me feel all weird. All right, Kelly, thank you so much. Follow her on social media. Catch her on SiriusXM channel 156, especially on Unlocking the Cage with Jimmy Smith. Kelly, we'll talk soon.
All right, bye. Thank you.